Hi, everyone, and welcome into Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. Hashtag no stopping you. Hope that everyone is having a good Wednesday. My name is Joel Goldberg, and we are back for what I believe will be another fantastic episode and some really good perspective coming up. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for wishing me a happy birthday. Had a lot of messages. Well, that reminds me, I got to get on my Facebook page and thank everybody. It's hard to respond to every single one of those, but it's so cool to hear from everyone. And then on all the social media platforms. And I'll be honest, doing the show yesterday and different Zoom calls, all the daily stuff that we're all doing now, it was it was challenging because I was trying to sort of balance the responding to the texts and doing this, and everybody kept saying, "Well, what'd you do on your birthday?" And I'm like, "Well, I worked all day." But then we had a bunch of friends at a social distance last night come over and celebrate a little bit, so that was a lot of fun. So again, thank you everyone for making it a memorable birthday with all the messages. I really appreciate that. Do want to thank, and there will be a military theme on this show today. And when it comes to military, the guys at Casey Cattle Company up in Weston, Missouri, veteran owned and operated, led by former Army Ranger Patrick Montgomery. They've got Wagyu beef up there. They ship to all 50 states. You can see their website, caseycattlecompany.com, or their social media. And it is one of our favorite things here in this house. And once we tried Casey Cattle Company's beef, it was like, hey, we can't do anything else. So I highly encourage everyone to try it. And they're awesome guys, awesome folks that have served our country admirably. So really pleased with my partnership with them and Enterprise Bank and Trust. I mentioned the military theme, and my guest today is Zeke Crozier, who um, medically retired from the military with not just an unbelievable story of adversity and defying odds, but now one that has pivoted to truly making a difference in our community. Zeke, I know you and I met maybe about a month ago or so, and I was excited to ask you to come on the show. I was even more excited that you said yes. How are you doing in these COVID-19 times with two little ones in the house?
Joel, thanks for having me on. Just like everybody else, I'm surviving. That's what this is. It's how to cope with the new norm is what it is. But I won't complain. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. You've got a nonprofit called Handicap, and that's what I want to talk to you about. But I believe, first off, I believe everybody has a story to tell. I've been a firm believer for as long as I've been in TV, and then the longer I've been in, and then doing the speaking and all that is the more that it has um, reminded me of the power of storytelling. I don't care who you are. I believe we all have a story to tell. Some are more obvious than others. Some may be more interesting. Depends on who you are. But I believe that yours is one that everybody can understand. Medically retired Army Staff Sergeant, helicopter unit, and then a major life-changing event. Before we get to that, tell me about life in the military before you had your accident, your moment, because you had served this country for a lot of years. What were your goals and aspirations getting into the military, and tell us about some of the places that you served.
So I grew up in a small town up north of Missouri. Didn't much have much of nothing, much of anything really. Moved down here, went to Spring Hill. That's kind of like considered my hometown. Graduated high school. My brother joined the Marine Corps. Post 9/11, and so I was actually going to follow his footsteps. I went and talked to a Marine recruiter, expected to join the Marine Corps.
We might have just lost Zeke. At least it
They
looks like
couldn't
he's.
guarantee
Oh,
as
there
bad,
he is.
so sorry.
Go ahead, Zeke.
But I got into the
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt too. I think we lost a little bit of the we have this with the Wi-Fi signals every now and then. It's going to happen. So you froze up for a
yeah
minute, just like it happens on all of our Zoom calls. But I'll continue the discussion. You were talking about kind of following in your brother's footsteps.
yeah we'll adapt. It's all good. Thank you. So grew up in a small town, and then graduated from Spring Hill High School, and then joined the military. tried to go to the Marine Corps to follow my brother's footsteps. That didn't work out. They couldn't guarantee me a job, so I joined the Marine Corps, not the Marine Corps, the Army, and actually walked right into it was an Army Reserve unit um, out in Gardner, New Century Air Base Reserve unit, and actually we were able to support other units and active duty things like that. So they all needed air support. So I was actually on orders every once in a while. So it fulfilled what I expected for the military. And actually, right after I joined, although my recruiter told me that that unit hadn't been deployed in years, 9 months after I joined that unit, we were deployed. We called up to go to Pakistan. There was an earthquake relief, an earthquake there. We were there to relief. It was 2006, I believe, and then we moved right into Afghanistan. So it was deployed for 12 months. And then moving on to 2009, Africa for a humanitarian mission as well. And then 2011, we got called back up to deploy to Afghanistan. And that's kind of where everything changed. I wasn't a perfect soldier. I don't know many individuals that can say that they were perfect. And then, of course, I was younger, hard-headed. I guess you'd call me dangerous at that time because I was not afraid of much. And I guess you can call it ignorance. I just call it young age. Either way, I got to experience a lot, and it gave me perspective. And I think, post injury as well, I've gained so much more perspective, So that's where it's at. If I miss anything, Joel, help me out because I forget things. I got hit in the head. My memory's terrible.
Yeah, I know. I'm here to help with that. And shoot, I need some of that help sometimes too. By the way, and we'll just I always welcome questions to come in, but this one came in by I know the name of the small Missouri town your guest is from. So I know everybody's always interested in who's from where and some connections and things like that.
Yeah. So Bethany is the city, the well-known city. East of Bethany is a place called Mount Moriah, Missouri. When I lived there were 43 people. They had a little sign on the welcome sign. It's 43 people. And I lived in two different houses, and we had two little churches. So I think a buddy of mine sent me a picture a couple years ago, and it was up to 96, I believe, for the population. So it's a little more than doubled.
Yeah, that truly small town, no doubt about it. So thanks for sending that question in, Becky. So let's continue with the story. And by the way, if we have any internet type of issues, just dial back in and we'll keep on rolling. I'm used to live television where stuff comes up. It happens every single day in baseball in some form or another. So I've done this many times before. Zeke, so let's go to 2011, and there's this helicopter crash. What do you remember of it? What happened, and then let's advance to the situation, the very grave situation that you were in.
So I was actually supposed to be a full year deployment, and I made it 41 days. June 25th is when I crashed. Deployment's deployment, and it's a difficult time. It's away from I can almost compare it a little bit to our current situation. We're not deployed necessarily, but we are isolated. We're not given the freedoms that we normally would have. So and it's a difficult time, and so we lean on our closest people to us, which are our closest family. When I was deployed, I leaned on to my brothers, sisters, the people, the individuals that were right there. So you come close and reconnect, which is why I look at this time right now as a time to reconnect with our closest family members. But yeah, I was there 41 days. I was a crew chief, and so we were flying every night, every day. And it's difficult for me still to recall, remember the things that I did. When I hear people talking, it like triggers a memory for me and it can bring it back. I'm blessed to be in the situation I am to where I can actually recall certain things, but it's so difficult and it's hard to explain that to people too when I look like I'm normal. But 41 days, and then we went out for on a mission. I recall it being a 3-day mission, I believe. We spent the night at Jalabad, and then we went on a mission, and the helicopter, we were trying to land. I guess my trying to explain to somebody else, it's like landing in Arrowhead Stadium. You're flying around and you're trying to land into the center of Arrowhead Stadium. However, the lights are all turned off. There's no street lights. There's zero illumination, and the wind is blowing incredibly fast and hard. And then the terrain, yeah, it's not flat like Arrowhead Stadium. It's actually rocky. There's trees, things like that. So we had some of the best pilots and crew out there. And I was actually lower on the totem pole as far as my experience flying and crewing and things like that. So uh, we did a couple go rounds, I believe, and then we tried to land. And I was on the ramp. I was acting flight engineer on that flight, and so I was basically in control, you know, to some extent. So I was calling trees. The way I can try to explain it is I like to use props. So if we call this a tree, this is the helicopter. I'm on the back. This is the front. Flying over, I have to call clearance with the blades rotating so we don't hit the trees. And so I remember calling clearance and say we're clear to come down. I called an RPG at the 6 o'clock position. I thought it missed. It went past. And then I called small arms fire. And then I say we're clear to come down. I thought they all missed. There was further investigation. It suggests that an RPG is what took us down, not the full. It's kind of like a cigarette. When you pop a cigarette, there's ashes that come off. So it suggested that one of those popped off, and that took out our number 2 engine. So there's a lot of different details. I'm trying to explain them, the best I can to help understand, so people are kind of tracking a little bit. But it suggests that we were shot down. You'll never hear me say that we were shot down. I'm telling a story that it's hard for me to even tell. I'm telling what other things have been brought to me. But there's been an investigation, and there's a book out there that I can share with people as well that tells the story a much better and a more accurate story. So moving on, we crashed. I was medevaced out, so I was knocked out unconscious. We had a full board. I think it was 35 or 38 people on board, including crew. 5 members were crew members. And so they all rallied to their point, noticed that Zeke wasn't there, and so they went back to find me. Thankfully, they came back to find me. I was just laying there. And so head trauma, my head went back and forth. And so, yeah, it's difficult moving forward with that. It's almost like a dream. Did it really happen? And then I've got pictures of it. My wife has videos and things like that, and so we've looked at them, and it's just, I suppose it's just it's difficult to just settle with and understand that that's something that did really happen, and then trying to explain myself all the time, trying to explain that that really did happen. I know I look like this. People say it could have been that bad. On what level do you want to talk about being bad? I don't like to compare with anyone in that perspective either. So, Joel, what else? Help me out here. What else? Where can I go with this? I'm forgetting things.
No, you're not. You're actually doing great. And I can only say, having had multiple concussions before, nothing at the level you dealt with ever, that I understand what, comparatively speaking, would be minor, and the effect that even had on me. And so I think to some degree, everybody understands the severity of any type of brain injury. But if you've at least had some type of concussion where the memory goes some, or the light sensitivity, or the noise sensitivity, that seems really big in the moment. I know when I had one, it took me 7 or 8 months to get through it, but I could still, function. I mean, we're talking about where you are at on a whole nother level. So, and when you say to me, "Hey, help me out," I understand to a degree the challenge of piecing all this together, or it's a longer story. Just so you know, from a feeling good about yourself, I'm following everything you're saying, so you haven't missed anything based on some of the conversations you and I have had prior to this. Is it, just curious, because I know, and we'll get here in a bit, you're telling this story a lot to help other people, and it's become very important for you to do that. How challenging is it to have to go through that again, is it tough to relive it or repiece it together, or is it more an issue of just tough to kind of remember some of that stuff?
So I'm a facts kind of guy. When I tell it, I want to make sure I'm telling it correctly, and I want to make sure I'm not offending anyone when I do talk about it. And because I'm talking about also a military family over there, right? And so, and when you're in a group, you know how to talk. In baseball, you know how to talk. I
Yep.
follow your words like pivot. I understand that it's a new category. It's a new. So I try to. I want to tell facts, tell exactly how it is, so there's not confusion. But then at the same time, it's I want to be realistic as to what did happen, and then realistic as to say this is me, and if I don't get things correct every time, there's a reason why. I'm trying, and I'm my biggest. We're our own biggest critics,
Yeah, for
right? And
sure.
so, um, and it's hard to process things in my head. I get lost, and I just hope that it comes back again. I have great things I want to say, but then I lose them, and then I feel bad because it's like, man, if I just would have hit that, right there. Even when I go publicly speak and things like that, I write things down, but it's trying to recall those things.
Mhm.
That's the hardest part about my memory. Um, you asked a question on the other
Yeah,
part, right? Where it's good to have you right now.
just the challenge of it. First off, I would also tell you that for whatever it's worth, you're being hard on yourself because I think you're probably a perfectionist. You're a guy that, like you said, wants to get it right. Every bit of whatever you tell is going to move people. It just is. So it's like, and I've
Right.
learned this, by the way, just in TV. Like sometimes you don't get to everything. Sometimes you don't have time to get to everything. Sometimes afterward you say, "Oh man, I wish I'd put that in there or this in there or whatever." But there's nothing in your story, whatever you hit or you don't hit. This is just my own observation and advice. There's nothing if you miss it that is going to then deter people from being interested in what you're talking about. So I would recommend, because it's you're putting a lot of stress on yourself to try to get to everything. If you miss something, so what? Like your story is incredible. So that's my 2 cents on that one. But no, I mean I was just trying to illustrate a little bit of the challenges that you face in doing this, and that's part of it. So let's just move on because I want to then. I know the diagnosis you got and what you were up against. Well, you said multiple times. People look at me and they think, "Well, I must be okay." Go back to that point, and thank God, no. If I know correctly, or if I believe correctly, no lives were lost on that helicopter. But how close? How much was your life on the line?
So, no one was killed in my crash. And there's another crash we'll get to as well, where everyone was killed. So they rate brain injuries on a scale of 3 to 15. 15 is concussion and 3 is brain dead. Um, and so I was a 7.
Wow.
Uh, and again, these are things that I'm told, and so I'm just retelling the story because obviously I'm taking a nap, I'm sleeping, I have no idea what's going on around me. So and I add humor to this because I have to. It's just
Yeah.
that's So but level 7, I don't look at it as it's a miracle that I survived, right? Because I was alive. They brought me out of a coma, and I watched a movie a couple months ago too. I don't recall, but it was similar, and there's a lot of similarities in there. But me coming out of a coma, I was slow. I didn't recall. I didn't realize I had a youngest kid, my youngest son that I had nearly about a year earlier. Just things that weren't there. They weren't hidden, and even then, it's like a dream.
Mm.
Um, if I reflect on it, I recall little bits and pieces, but I also combine things too, events and stories like that. So um, I say a lot too. Joel, do you do that quite a bit?
Yeah, but I
So
do it too, and I have no excuse, so it's okay.
so anyway, it was challenging. Obviously, I have a lot of faith. I'm blessed. I believe that a higher power was there, and that's why I'm here today, right? I believe this happened to me for a reason. I believe things do happen for a reason. I don't agree with them all the time. Um, I said there was another crash. The other crash was also called Extortion 17. We labeled our crashes, and they were all killed.
Mm.
And it's like, well, why was I spared, but they weren't? And so we can all play that game, and I do more than people understand. And so, but I have to believe that there's a reason why I'm here. And there's a reason, and my purpose is I'm changing lives. I'm being transparent. Like I said, I'm real. I'm vulnerable. It's embarrassing at times because I don't have a filter the way that I want, and I'll say things. I'll spit them out, and then I'll regret it most of the time. I'll say, "Why the heck did I say that?"
Mm.
Or how's this, right? Everybody likes a no filter person when they say something funny. Like, oh, that was so funny. It's okay. You can say that stuff when you can laugh about it. But when I say something that's serious, it's like, oh wait, you can't say that, Zeke. What's wrong with you?
Mm.
Well, when do I get to use that card that, hey, I got hit in the head once, you know?
Mm.
So it's difficult. There's a fine line. There's a balance there, and all I want to do is just I know what it's like to be trapped inside of a body. I explain it by saying I've got all this intelligence in my brain. I just can't get it out. Um, and that's how I feel. I relate to other people on some kind of scale, on some kind of level, and say, okay, well, I've been there, I've experienced that. Was mine worse? Maybe, but maybe mine wasn't even as bad as yours. We all experience pain differently. We all experience traumatic events differently. So a minimal crash could be worse on that person than my crash was on me. It's hard to. I just want to make it fair for everybody and make sure we all have a story. We all experience things. Um, and my thing is why pity or why feel bad about things when we can communicate, we can work together and say, well, what works for you? What helps you get better? And so, and I think at the same time, I'm kind of asking that for myself and saying, hey, I'm waiting to find somebody that's going to help me where I can get better. And I think I've done that with what I'm doing now a little bit. So
Let's talk about what you're doing now, and I want to fill in just a couple of blanks so people have an understanding. And this I've pulled off of your website, and certainly you could add or correct before we get to handicapping, which is truly an amazing story, and I know that it's a major part of your purpose today. But I know from what the website says, you were in a coma, you came out, and you had paralysis on your left side. uh, you were told you may not walk and talk again, and so here you are. Is that all about accurate?
that's pretty accurate. Um, yeah, I have to ask my wife all the time, like, how long was I in a coma? Like, because I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I know that I was asleep. Um, and then, yes, the left side, and I'm left side dominant. Actually,
Mm.
Joel, I was a pitcher in high school. They called me Wild Man. But it doesn't matter. I threw pretty hard, and I missed that. But we all have a story. It's all good. But the left side was partially paralyzed. Actually, in the crash, they splinted my leg because it was all off to the side and out of sorts, and so they splinted my leg because they thought it might have been broken or
Mm.
dislocated. But it was just because I got hit in the head and I lost all motor skills. So it's like I tell people, like, I'm cut in half. My left side was the side that was affected most because the brain operates both opposite sides of the body.
Mm.
So I was actually in rehab with stroke patients. It was a lot of similar things that I had to work on and results from the head injury. So I had to wear like tape on my face, tape on my arm, my hand, my leg, to try to regain the ability to operate like that. So we can play it up, and people do try to. When I've had like there's interviews and there's stories out there online of people try to make it even better. Like Zeke was the only survivor. I mean,
Yeah.
the story is, and I'm telling you, the story is real, and it's good without even trying to spice it up. So um, I always feel the need to like, hey, say like, no, let's correct that, and let's make sure because like I said, I'm real and I'm about facts. So if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, and we'll move forward. But I mean, it was intense. Obviously, I thank God for creating me the way He did, giving me the ability to do things that I've done. Um, for sparing me it's to some extent, but also it also takes the individual as well, and that I can give up. My motto is I want to give up every day. I do. I want to throw in the towel and say I'm done. I don't know how. That's it. I don't know how, because every day my heart and my head tell me I need to be an example. I'm trying to show people how I want to change who I am and be a better person and things like that and overcome adversity. And how can I be that example if I conflict or I do opposite of whatever I just preach to people, right? So I'm just trying to be a good example.
So I know that they were telling you might not walk and talk again. I know you're humble from the time that you and I have spent, the limited time that we've spent in this, in these pandemic times have basically been like this on a Zoom or whatever. So I'm getting to know you, and you're a humble guy. I maybe you don't view this as a miracle. I get the perspective end, why me? Why not me? Why why did they go down? Why we didn't? I'm guessing that everybody that was on the helicopter with you feels some form of that. I sense that it's part of it. But I don't know. Call it a miracle, call it not. You're walking, you're talking, you're making an impact in life now. Right before we talk about handicapping, I want to ask you, you received a Purple Heart. And I'm always curious about that. I mean, that is something that will follow you for the rest of your life. It makes you a hero. Yet I've never talked to someone in the military in the same way now that you talk to the medical, the folks on the front lines medically right now, the doctors, the nurses. They don't view themselves as heroes. They just say, we're just doing our job. When I went over to Kuwait on a USO tour with the Royals, George Brett, Mike Sweeney, and others, everyone we talked to said, we're not heroes. We're just doing our job. The heroes are back at home, our spouses, our families, and all of that. That seems to be a military way. But what did it mean to you to receive a Purple Heart?
I didn't receive it initially. It was considered an accident. The investigation wasn't complete, and so I didn't initially receive it. And so I was confused. There was resentment there actually in the beginning, and then but I did receive it, I lost it. I felt like it was a cap to, no pun intended, a cap to what I had experienced, the dedication I put, doing my part, serving my country, all those months, year away from my family and things like that. I felt like it was acknowledged, it was recognized, and so um, I felt it was deserving, absolutely. But I'm losing my train of thought
Yeah,
again,
just
Joel. I
yeah, but
apologize.
just that's
That's
okay. Just
normal, man.
no, that's hey, that's life, So you roll with it, and that's the way it goes. And then the
Yeah,
good news is, if you have a decent wingman, and I'll play that role, I can pull you along. So that's what I do. But no, we're just
appreciate
talking
it.
about what it meant to receive that Purple Heart. Did you view yourself as a hero?
Okay, so here's my thing. I was considered a hero at one time. In the military, a hero is someone that's killed, and that's why I have a hard time accepting that label. Um, they initially called me a hero when we crashed because they thought I was dead, and then they removed that once they got more information on that. But there's another crash, like I said, the Extortion 17 crash where they were all killed. It's the well-known Navy SEAL crash that I live under in the shadow, is what I call it. Um, but they were all killed. They're no longer here in body. Okay, and so it's difficult to be attached to and have that label of I'm a hero when I survived. I'm here. All of my mind is still there at times. I'm not the same person I was, good and bad, right? But I maybe considered a hero for the things I'm doing now with handicap, and once we get into that, so it's hard to accept that label.
Sure.
I feel appreciated and respected and acknowledged for my service and my injury through with that, but it's hard to be called a hero every day. And I always correct people when they say it to me. But I also know that when people say things, they're doing it for themselves as well.
Mhm.
So I have to. It's like when people say thank you for your service. Is that they do that? They feel better about themselves when they say those things. So I'm learning to accept those things. I'm learning to accept the words, and the terms, and things like that.
And I think, look, if you're humble like you are, and you have the perspective like you do, it is uncomfortable. But for me, not just you, and not just those that lost their lives, those that are serving right now are heroes because we all make sacrifices, by the way. I mean, I make a sacrifice to travel around the country at what I believe is the most amazing job. That takes a toll on my family. I mean, we all have some hero in us, but to me, when you're putting your life on the line, as pretty much everyone in the military does in some form or another, that's a hero. When I see our first responders right now, when I see our medical community risking their lives to take care of others, I view that as a hero. I would guess that you view them as a hero too. It's different when you're on the outside and the attention is not on you. That's where it becomes comfortable and you have that perspective. So everything you're saying adds up to me.
And that's what it is, Joel. It really is. It's changing your mindset, and it's about perspective and seeing it from someone else's shoes or someone else's vision. And so that's what it was. When I was in therapy, and I used to get, as we talked about, I had the perfectionist mindset. When I was in therapy, and every time I screwed up, I'd start saying, "Damn it, I suck! Like this is dumb." And then my therapist, she pulled me to the side and said, "Zeke, if you saw someone else struggling and they weren't doing something proper, and they said, 'Oh, I suck,' would you walk over and tell them that they suck too?" And I wouldn't. I'd walk over and say, "Hey, you got this. We're all
Sure.
struggling. We're having a difficult time, but we're gonna get through this. We're gonna work together, and you're gonna get this. Let's do it. Let's hit this again." Right? It changed my perspective entirely.
Mm.
And so, and that's why I said I don't want the label as being a hero with that. It just doesn't make sense to me. But at the same time, my purpose and what I'm trying to do is to help other people and inspire them, give them a voice. People that don't have a chance, don't even have a voice to even talk. Right? It's hard for me to process these things and get them out, but at least I have a voice, and I can vomit everything I have in my head, and hopefully somebody makes sense of it. Uh, so it is. It's all to me. It's about perspective.
I'll say it again. I think everything that you say makes sense, and you're navigating your way. There's nothing wrong with that. I love that you're learning that perspective. And by the way, we all every day can learn new perspective. I mean, that's a never ending quest, I think, through life. So, nice little comment here from Amanda Wetter. Zeke is amazing. I like the profile picture too. Amazing person. I
I
am
know.
honored to know him. So very nice. I like to pass some of those along. Okay, let's talk about handicapping. I
All right.
knew that we would want to set up the whole story. And by the way, I agree with you that there's no reason to embellish or make things what they're not until and unless the Zeke Crozier movie comes out, and then they'll do whatever they want to do because I think that's the way Hollywood works.
Right.
But in terms of this right now, we're trying to stick to the facts, which is a good thing. Um, we'll get to where handicapping is now, but I think it's amazing how this started, how bottle caps during your journey and your rehabilitation helped you. So explain how you stumbled on bottle caps art and how that journey began.
So early on, I couldn't be around people. My PTSD was insane before I even knew what the heck PTSD was. I couldn't comprehend that, but I knew that I didn't like a lot of things, and so we had a lake lot down Southland Valley. That was my getaway, be isolated from people and things like that. And so I found an old wire spool in the trash, and we made it to a table. Had that set up out there by the camper. If you can imagine being at the lake, people are having bottle caps all over the place. And so I said, "Hey, let's police all those up onto the table here, and so we can mow and then have that whole problem, things like that." And like I said, things happen for a reason. And so I don't know what was going on other than the fact that it happened. And so all the bottle caps are on this wire spool table, and I had a hammer because we had just built a little deck in front of the camper. And I walked over with the hammer and tried to smash a bottle cap, and I missed. And it made me angry Joel, I got frustrated. Okay, and so that mindset, that mentality of being perfect and at least getting close, and I tried to hit it, I missed, and so I did it, and the mindset, I did it until I hit the bottle cap, and I smashed the bottle cap. And I wish I would have sent this to you earlier. I've got a picture of that, but I smashed hundreds of bottle caps, and I would miss, but it forced me to hit the same spot to smash it, which and then helped my motor skill, helped me improve where I was hitting in the same location. Okay, I don't know. I can't explain it why I did it, other than the fact that that's how my mind works. It's always trying to find a different outlet to where I can at least accomplish the task at hand. Um, that's what do they say? Complete the mission at all costs. Complete the mission. So accomplish the mission. So I smashed all these bottle caps and nailed them to the table. I went home. It rained when I came back. The whole table is rusted. The bottle caps rust when they get wet, obviously. So that that wire spool table got thrown back in the trash can. But at least I have a picture to show. I wish I would have kept it, but it's all good. But again, next step, my mind's thinking, how can I create something like this to where it's not going to be ruined, where it can be put in the house, it can be kept forever. And then I got involved with epoxies and then resins, and then I would start making designs. It just I used to do roofing and sheet metal, so I had sheet metal snips, and that's what I used to cut the bottle caps. I haven't found anything out there like this. I've searched everything. There's bottle cap art that a lot of people smash or they just bend them, but I actually cut the bottle cap. It's dangerous. I don't promote this as far as doing this at home unless you don't care if you cut your finger, because I cut the heck out of my fingers all the time. But I guess I take pride in being unique, and I think that's a big part of it is the fact that it's unique art. It's a unique way of making the art, so it stands out. It's different, and so I so it was a hobby. It was art therapy, and I didn't know what it was called, and I had to give it a label or term it initially, but it's called art therapy. This is what my therapy began. I could smash bottle caps. I could create a piece of art, just lay them all down there, spray paint a design, and lay them down, and then I was making myself feel better, like I had a purpose, and then that's exactly what it became. People saw it and said, "Hey Zeke, I want to buy one of those." Okay, well now I've got a business. Now I have to name this, and so I have a handicap parking spot in my truck, and I was trying to think of a name for it. And I looked over. I'm just thinking to myself at the same time, handicapping. Get the heck out of here. Just the way this thing comes together, man. I'm telling you, it's set there. I'm living the same. I'm reading the same book everybody else is reading. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the way these things fall into place, I'm blessed, and so I can't take advantage of this to fulfill myself. I have to help other people as well. And so, go ahead.
No, I haven't really done this on here yet. I've done it with some presentations, but I think we can see that right now. So, when I share a little bit of that artwork and then from your website, I assume you're seeing that right now. And there's a
Yes,
little
sir.
bit more of what Zeke is doing. So I just wanted to pop that up for people that are watching. And certainly I have been popping up. It's there right now, the handicapping website, but people can get at least a little bit of an idea, because visuals are always so powerful, and it's amazing. So what I want to ask, and we'll wrap up here in just a little bit, is this purpose that you have talked about, and what you're doing with it. Um, this became a nonprofit in 2019, handicapping, a 501c3. What what's your purpose now? What's your mission in life?
Trying to get this whole nonprofit organized and set to where so I feel better about that. I'm seeking any kind of help I can get with that, guidance with that. Um, I became a nonprofit because it makes sense. My whole purpose with making art is I would make something and give it away and say, here, I put it in donations, fundraisers, things like that, because I wanted to help somebody else, right? But then all of a sudden, a big toll on my back pocket, my wallet area.
Mhm.
So it doesn't make sense. Um, so what I want to do is I want to help people. I want to help individuals, but I also want to give people a purpose and serve them. So it just made sense to make it a nonprofit, right? I'm not making money. I'm restricted because of disability limitations. I can't make money. I can't work a certain amount of hours. So I need help, right? So it makes sense that people start helping me. Uh, and then I can create art, sponsored art. It's a nonprofit, so it's tax deductible. And now I can donate the art. It can be auctioned off, raises
Mhm.
all this money, and it goes back to support whatever nonprofit organization that it's going to benefit. Um, so it makes sense to me. Hopefully, it makes sense to other people. I
Mhm.
think it does because there's a lot of support there. I'm blessed to have the support that I have all over the United States, and that's the cool thing. So they'll have me out. They'll have an event. I'll make a piece of art specific for their event. It's unique. Again, it stands out, something people don't see normally. And then I speak, tell my story the best that I can, and then they auction the piece off, and hopefully it generates a lot of money that's going to fit other people, which will then in fact benefit human lives, actual lives, or even animals. I don't know, whatever the event's going on, but it's going to benefit people directly, and that's what my purpose is already. That's how I help myself. Okay, it's helping me, but it's ultimately helping other people, which
Mhm.
then in return is helping me.
You're having this purpose, you're having this mission, you're having this activity, which has become such a passion and love of yours, helps rehabilitate you. In turn, you can take that product and help others, whether it be with mental illnesses, PTSD, or whatever the organization might be. It makes 100% sense. I'll share another message, and that's pretty cool too. When you have people like former teachers that are proud of what you're doing, and I know that you don't love the hero tag, but I'll call you a hero, and that's fine. You can live with that one. And um, I say that also recognizing those that have lost their lives, and the heroes that paid the ultimate price. There's different ways to describe a hero, by the way, too. And I think we all have a little bit of hero in us in some form or another. So I think that's important to recognize. So you started this. I think it could go a long ways because you're helping people and you're doing it from the heart, which makes a difference. I think it's interesting too, some of the attention that you have had and the interaction with the Royals and the Chiefs. I know you told me that Ian Kennedy, who's one of the really truly great guys in town, and now the Royals closer. Whenever we get started back up again, that there's been some involvement there with him and with the Chiefs, right?
Yes, sir. It's again, people put in your path for a reason. I'm blessed to have the connection with Ian Kennedy now. He actually was the winning bidder at the Folds of Honor event that we had in December. Bought my art for $10,000. He sent me pictures. We've been talking back and forth. Great guy. I'm just humbled to be one of the guys that he sees, and so he's got a great heart. Though I've seen all the things he's been doing and
Mm-hmm.
still does. The Chiefs again. They honored me this last season. I got to beat the drum. Unexpected. I don't need that type of I guess payment for the things that I'm doing. But I'm telling you, man, it makes you feel like you're really doing something that's right and good. And so it just tells me I need to keep doing what I'm doing. Um, and actually, I've got an event going on right now. It's a terrible time to ask for donations, but I'm doing a fundraiser. Um, just sitting around, and I feel like I'm going crazy, not doing anything to help people. And so I made a picture, a piece of art to honor the nurses and doctors out there called the COVID superhero. And so the donations are going back in the community. I will say I teamed up with Jenna Wingate with Wingate Agency. Great lady. She does so much in the community, and this was kind of her gig, and Handicap is helping to raise the funds here. So we're uh, we're raising all the donations are going back into the local Kansas City community to small local businesses, restaurants, buying gift cards to give them immediate business, and the gift cards are being dispersed to students K through 12 that are struggling or just need positive affirmation, things like that. So just trying to help everybody build up and things like that. And so um, if you're following handicapping on Facebook, that's where you'll find that whole event. And I just finished the picture yesterday. We've got a new surprise coming out here probably the end of the week or next week. Another buddy of mine, he's going to sponsor another piece of art that you could also win. So it's not a good time to donate, but at the same time, if you want to the community keep it going, because I'm seeing restaurants close down, businesses close down. It's unfortunate, and I just want to help any way that I can.
it may not be a good time for everyone to donate, but it still is possible that many can and will. I believe that. And there are ways, I mean, I keep saying this, there are ways for us all to contribute in some form or another. Certainly one of my contributions and my offer to you would be that anything that you have going on, any developments, when that news comes out later this week or next week, let me know and I will help publicize it and do whatever I can to continue to draw attention. That's just the little piece that I can do. But I say that just as a reminder that we all can find ways to contribute and help community with our different talents and with our different abilities in any moment, even when times are tough. So here's my final question for you, Zeke. You have perspective. You have a perspective that's different than many as we go through, as a community, as a country, adversity that we've never seen before. Not quite like this. We've seen adversity before. We know about September 11th, 9/11. We know about different moments in this country's history. We've never been through anything like this before. What advice do you have? And I'm sure you give a lot of advice to, veterans that are battling like you did or battling like you still do. And I wonder how much that advice would apply to just any civilian right now, because a lot of people are going through a lot of stuff. What advice do you have?
We all have a story, all right? We all do, and it's easy to judge somebody else by appearance. It actually takes empathy and the will to actually want to learn somebody else's struggles and find out what's wrong with them. And so, uh, the advice that I have is to actually get to know someone. You know, to become best friends, just talk, ask questions, because I get looked at. Let's take it this route real quick. I get looked at every day when I still park in a handicap spot. All right, and people look me up and down, and it's a compliment. They say when I look like an athlete. I appreciate that, right? But talk to me, find out what's going on, and you'll find out I don't park there all the time. If it's usually in the winter times, the only time I even take advantage of that situation or that placard that I have. But communication, it starts when you're kids, right? Communicate. Two people get in a fight argument. What do you do? Work it out. Figure it out. We become adults. We should probably take that same, advice. Talk it out. It's easy to be a keyboard warrior on the internet
Hmm.
and to talk so much havoc, but try actually understanding why they believe what they believe. We all have certain stories and specific events that cause us to believe what we do. I don't want to bring politics into this, but that's a big part of it too. We're all different for a reason. We're all unique. We're all different, and so that's okay to be different. All right, just find out why people believe what they believe, what happened in their life that took them that direction, and then when you get to adversity, when you get to something that's difficult and you have to overcome something that's a struggle, you have support. It's okay to ask for help. I still need to ask for help, and it's hard to do, but it's necessary. Um, you can get help from people. Someone's always there to help you. When something bad happens, you get deeper and deeper whenever you start building them up on top of the other, right? It's a negatives they all glue together. It's just that one big pile puts you into a hole. Um, it takes a lot to ask for help and say, hey, can you talk to me? Can you help me work this out? So just talk about it and don't give up. So don't be that guy to give up. Don't be that girl to give up. We're all here to support you.
I'm going to wrap it up and tell you this, that if you're not comfortable with being called a hero for surviving that crash, I would call you a hero based on what you're doing right now, not just in your art, but in, I wasn't trying to be cute with rhyming or whatever, but with your heart. I mean, you're helping people. And that to me, and I know like anybody else, but certainly with some of the stuff that you deal with, that you continue to deal with, will continue to deal with, and some of the frustration I can hear at times that comes with that even if you have bad days, you have the ability to make a major impact on people's lives every single day, even on your worst day. I think you know that, but I wanted to say it and remind you that to me is what makes you a hero, because you are taking your skills and leveraging them to make other people's lives better. So on the worst of days, when you're struggling to find that thought and you're beating yourself up over it, just remember that everything you're doing, I'm sure your wife tells you this, I'm sure the people that know you much better than me tell you this, that you have found a calling, you found a passion here, and who knows where that's going to go. I mean, I think it has the chance to grow and grow, but wherever it goes, you're making that impact. So I want to commend you for that. I want to more so commend you for your vulnerability. You talked about that a little bit, and your willingness to open up and put yourself out there, knowing that it's not exactly where you want it to be. There's a quote that I'm using in my virtual speech that I'm doing right now from Michael J. Fox that says, "I'm careful not to confuse excellence with perfection. Excellence I can reach for. Perfection is God's business." And as you were talking about some of what you were saying, it reminds me of that. You may be a perfectionist. None of us are ever going to be perfect, but your excellence and your strive for excellence right now is making an impact. So I want to commend you for that.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, Joel. I really do. It
And
gives me more of a reason to keep doing my purpose. So thank you.
well, and I'm, the Ian Kennedys of the world, the Mitch Holtises of the world, the people that you come into contact with and will continue to come in contact with. I don't mean to speak for them, but I guarantee you that they would feel the same way. So I want to thank you, Zeke, for spending the time. For this is probably one of the longer ones we've done, and quite frankly, I could go another hour because there's so much story to tell. But I think we covered a lot of it. I think people have an understanding. Most importantly, at this point, I'll encourage everybody. I'll put the website up again to go to handicapping.com. Get involved. It's a really cool way to get involved and support our community and to be able to support Zeke's efforts. So, Zeke, I look forward to continuing to get to know you, to helping you in different ways, and just exploring where this thing's going. I think you're off to a great start. So, thanks for spending all the time today. And I think your words and your story will inspire a lot of others.
Joel, I really appreciate you having me on here.
All
Let
right.
me know what I can do for you as well.
I appreciate it. Hang tight for 1 second as I wrap up the show here, and a lot of comments coming in. Um, thanking and calling Zeke here. I totally get that he's not comfortable with that, but Staff Sergeant Ezekiel Crozier is making an impact here in his community. So again, remember to check out handicapping.com. This was one of the more inspirational episodes. It's what I love. I love being able to help tell these stories. That is a passion of mine. When it comes to military, the guys over at Casey Cattle Company all served our country, led by former Army Ranger Patrick Montgomery. So if you're looking for amazing Wagyu beef, check out their website or their social media. They deliver to all 50 states. They also deliver down to Kansas City. They're up in Weston, Missouri. So a thanks to the Casey Cattle Company and to my title sponsor, Enterprise Bank and Trust, hashtag no stopping you. Please share this episode with everyone in your network. I think it can help a lot of people. And I'm looking forward to being back here tomorrow for episode 33. Have a good Wednesday, everyone, or whatever day it is when you're watching this one. And thanks for tuning in to Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust.